Hello, everyone, and welcome. Think you remember everything from your first trimester of biology? Well, let's find out. We're going to do a quick recap of some of the most amazing ideas you've learned so far. So here's our game plan. We're hitting 5 key topics: the scientific method, then all about cells, using the microscope, how life gets fueled with nutrition, and finally, the incredible protist kingdom. Ready? Let's dive in.
All right, first up, the scientific method. I mean, how do we even begin to study all this stuff? How do scientists make all these incredible discoveries?
Well, it's definitely not just luck. It all kicks off with a process, a system, really, that helps us organize our curiosity and turn all our questions into actual knowledge. It's like a trusted recipe for finding answers.
And this process basically has 4 key steps. It starts with observation. You see something out in the world and you think, why does that happen? Then you form a hypothesis, which is really just a fancy way of saying an educated guess. Next up, you experiment to see if your guess was right. And finally, you draw your conclusions and share what you found out with everyone else.
So, let's move on and see how this very method led us to discover one of the most important things in all of biology, the cell.
That's right, every single living thing. I'm talking from the tiniest little organism to a gigantic blue whale is made up of these things. They are literally the building blocks of all life.
Now, you've got to know that cells come in 2 main types, and the big difference is all about the nucleus. Eukaryotic cells, like the ones in your body, have a nucleus that keeps all the DNA safe and sound. But prokaryotic cells, they're much simpler. Their DNA just kind of floats around inside the cell in that jelly-like stuff we call the cytoplasm.
And even within that eukaryotic group, there are some pretty big differences between plant and animal cells. Plant cells, for instance, have a tough cell wall for support and these things called chloroplasts to do photosynthesis. Animal cells don't have those, but they do have centrioles, which are super important when the cell needs to divide.
But hold on, cells are ridiculously small. So how in the world can we see something that tiny? Well, we need a special tool to get into their world.
Answering that is all about understanding magnification, and it's actually some pretty simple math that tells us exactly how much bigger the microscope makes things look.
And the formula could not be easier. You just take the power of the eyepiece lens, that's the part you look through, and multiply it by the power of the objective lens, the one that's right over your sample.
So, for example, if you're using a standard 10x eyepiece and you click that 4x objective lens into place, boom, you get a total magnification of 40 times. What you're seeing is 40 times bigger than it is in real life.
Okay, so let's jump to our next topic. We can see these tiny cells now, but how do they get the energy they need to, stay alive?
So there are 2 main strategies for this. First, you've got the autotrophs. Think of them as master chefs. They make their own food from really simple inorganic stuff like water, carbon dioxide, and sunlight. And of course, plants are the most famous autotrophs out there.
And then you have the heterotrophs, which is us. We can't make our own food, so we have to get our energy by eating other living things, whether it's plants or other animals.
This here shows us the autotroph's secret recipe. It's photosynthesis. A plant uses energy from the sun, takes in some carbon dioxide and water, and inside its chloroplasts, it works some magic. It turns them into glucose, that's sugar for energy. And as a bonus, it releases the oxygen that we all need to breathe. Pretty cool deal, right?
And finally, let's explore this absolutely fascinating and super diverse kingdom where we can see all these ideas, cells, nutrition, how things move, all come to life in the most incredible ways. Let's talk about the protists.
So some protists, the protozoa, have these amazing ways of getting around. The paramecium here uses cilia. We're talking hundreds of short little hair-like things that all beat together like tiny oars to just push it right through the water. Others, like this trypanosoma, use flagella. These are way longer than cilia, and usually there's only 1 or 2. They move in this whip-like motion that propels the cell forward, almost like a motor on a tiny boat.
And then you've got the amoeba, which has a really, really cool way of moving. It stretches out parts of its cytoplasm to make these things called pseudopods, which literally means false feet. It then uses them to just drag the rest of its body forward, kind of flowing from one spot to another.
But protists are not just protozoa. This kingdom also has algae, and their impact on our planet is gigantic. As autotrophs, they do tons of photosynthesis, and scientists estimate they absorb about 30% of all the CO2 we humans produce. They play a massive role in keeping our planet's climate in balance.
I mean, this just proves that even the smallest, tiniest forms of life can be unbelievably powerful and important for, well, for the entire planet. So it really leaves us with one last question to chew on. What other amazing invisible worlds are still out there, just waiting for us to discover them?